Welcome back to the deep dive. You ready to get our hands dirty?
Always. What are we diving into today?
Today we are exploring a deer burger recipe.
Deer burger.
Yep, venison.
Wow, okay.
Comes from the Fork and Fry podcast.
Interesting.
And apparently it's supposed to be amazing.
Hmm.
And so much healthier than your average beef burger.
Yeah, I've always been curious about venison.
Me too. I'm really excited to see what this recipe is all about. So let's dive in.
Sounds good to me.
This recipe is really interesting.
What do you mean?
Well, for starters, it uses venison.
Yeah, that's pretty unique for a burger.
Right. Like usually it's just beef, beef, beef.
Exactly. And this recipe really flips the script on that.
I think it's really cool.
Me too.
So let's break down the ingredients.
Okay.
We've got some familiar faces like breadcrumbs
Ah, the classic.
and an egg.
Right?
But then we see smoked paprika.
Ew, that's interesting. What's the thought behind that?
I was wondering the same thing.
Well, first we've got to talk about the breadcrumbs. They're actually super important here, even more so than with a beef burger,
Okay.
because venison is much leaner than beef.
Ah, so the breadcrumbs help keep the burger from drying out.
Exactly. They help to lock in that moisture.
That makes sense.
And then the egg, that's our binder.
Holding everything together.
Precisely. And then we get to the spices.
Like that smoked paprika.
Yes. That's where the magic happens. Smoked paprika adds this really subtle smokiness.
Ooh, I bet that goes great with the venison.
It does. It complements the flavor perfectly.
So there's a real strategy to this ingredient list.
Absolutely. They didn't just throw things together.
It all works together to create a specific flavor profile.
Exactly. And when you combine that smoky paprika with the Worcestershire sauce
Okay.
and the garlic powder and onion powder,
Aw.
you get this really complex depth of flavor that's going to be so different from your standard burger.
That sounds amazing. I love a good burger with lots of toppings.
Me too. Does the recipe recommend anything in particular?
They actually recommend keeping it pretty classic.
Oh, really? Like what?
Cheddar cheese, lettuce, tomato, pickles,
The classics. Can't go wrong with those.
for sure. But I love how they emphasize that you can get creative with the toppings.
Yes. Make it your own?
Yeah, so maybe add some grilled onions
Ooh, yeah, that'd be good.
or some spicy mayo.
Yum.
Okay, so we've covered the ingredients and toppings.
Right?
Let's move on to the cooking process.
Sounds good.
Now, I'll admit, venison can seem a little intimidating to cook.
Yeah, I get that.
But this recipe actually seems pretty straightforward.
It is. You start by combining all the ingredients in a large bowl.
So the venison, breadcrumbs, egg, all the spices,
All of it goes in the bowl.
and then we mix it all together.
Exactly. But don't overmix. That's really important.
I was just about to ask about that.
Oh, yeah.
Why is overmixing a no-no?
Overmixing will actually make the venison tough.
Oh, interesting.
So just gently combine everything until it's all mixed together.
Got it.
Once it's mixed, divide the mixture into 4 equal portions
Okay.
and then form them into patties.
How thick should the patties be?
Aim for about 3/4 of an inch thickness.
Like 3/4, okay.
That'll give you a nice juicy burger.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Patties formed. Now for the cooking.
Yes. What's the best way to cook these venison patties?
Well, you've got 2 options.
Okay.
You can either fire up the grill
Classic.
or heat up a skillet on the stovetop.
So either way works.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're grilling, make sure to lightly oil the grates.
To prevent sticking.
Exactly. And same goes for the skillet. A little drizzle of olive oil will do the
Sure,
trick.
Got it.
Now here's a neat trick that the recipe mentions.
Oh, what is it?
It's called the indentation trick.
The indentation trick. I've never heard of that.
Me neither. Basically, you make a small indentation in the center of each patty.
Interesting.
I know, right? It sounds weird, but apparently it helps the patties cook more evenly.
Ah, so you avoid getting a raw center?
Precisely.
Mm,
And it also prevents the patties from puffing up too much in the middle.
that's clever.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
So you'll have a nice flat surface for all those toppings.
Okay, so we've got our indented patties ready to go.
What's next?
Now it's time to cook. The recipe recommends about 4 or 5 minutes per side.
4 or 5 minutes.
That should give you a medium doneness.
Is there a specific temperature we should be looking for?
Yeah, you're aiming for an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit.
About 45.
That'll make sure the venison is cooked through safely.
Of course.
And if you like your burgers more or less done, just adjust the cooking time accordingly.
Makes sense.
Oh, and don't forget the cheese.
The cheddar.
Yep. Add a slice during that last minute of cooking so it gets all melty and gooey.
Ooh, melty cheese, yes. While the patties are cooking, what about the buns?
Toasted buns, absolutely.
I figured as much.
It adds a nice little crunch and really complements the flavors of the burger.
Agreed. Okay, so patties are cooked, cheese is melted. Buns are toasted. Time for assembly.
I can practically taste her already.
Me too.
Yeah.
So you start with a lettuce leaf on the bottom bun,
Okay.
then add that juicy venison patty, top it with a slice of tomato, some pickles,
Love pickles.
and then whatever other condiments you're feeling.
Mustard, ketchup, mayo. The possibilities are endless.
Right. And finally, crown it all with that toasted bun.
And voila.
A venison masterpiece.
I'm seriously hungry now.
Me too. Just listening to you describe this burger has made my mouth water.
I know, right? It sounds so good.
I think I'm going to have to try this recipe this weekend.
You should. Let me know how it goes.
I will. I'm really curious to see how it turns out.
Me too. This recipe is kind of like a gateway.
A gateway? What do you mean?
It's like it opens up this whole new world of cooking possibilities.
Oh, to what you're saying?
It's like it's challenging you to think beyond beef.
Beyond beef, yeah.
To think outside the bun, so to speak.
I like that. Think outside the bun.
It's like, why limit yourself to just beef when there's this whole world of flavors out there?
So true. It's all about expanding our culinary horizons.
Exactly.
Speaking of venison, we talked earlier about how it's leaner than beef. How does that leanness affect the flavor?
Well, because venison is naturally lean, it tends to cook a lot faster than beef,
That makes sense.
which is why that indentation trick we talked about is so important.
Right, to prevent it from drying out.
Exactly. You really don't want a dry burger.
Nobody wants a dry burger.
And in terms of taste, venison has this incredible depth and richness to it. Some people describe it as gamey,
Yeah, I've heard that before.
but it's really more of an earthy, savory flavor.
Okay.
It adds a lot of complexity to the burger.
So it's not just a healthier alternative, it's a whole new flavor experience.
Precisely.
I've also heard that venison is a more sustainable choice.
Absolutely. Sourcing your food responsibly is so important these days.
Couldn't agree more.
And venison, when it comes from ethical and responsible hunting practices,
Yeah?
it can be a really sustainable option.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. You're choosing a protein that's naturally part of the ecosystem.
Oh, I see.
It's not factory farmed or anything like that.
That's a good point. Now, for those of us who aren't hunters,
Right.
how can we source venison? Where can we find it?
You can often find venison at your local butcher shop or at farmers markets.
Okay.
And when you're selecting venison, look for cuts that are deep red in color
Deep red.
and have a fresh, slightly gamey aroma.
Interesting.
And don't be afraid to ask the butcher for their recommendations.
That's great advice. This deep dive has been so fascinating.
It really has. I've learned a lot about venison.
Me too. What stands out to you the most about this recipe?
For me, it's the simplicity combined with the unique flavor profile.
Yeah.
It shows that you don't need a ton of fancy ingredients to create something delicious and memorable.
And it's inspiring us to try something new.
To get out of our comfort zone.
Exactly. This has definitely sparked my curiosity.
I'm so glad.
And I can't wait to try making this deer burger myself.
You should.
What about you? Are you feeling adventurous enough to give it a go?
I think I might have to.
So there you have it, folks. The deer burger.
Who knew venison could be so versatile
Right.
and so delicious?
It really goes to show you that sometimes
The most unexpected ingredients
can lead.
are the most amazing culinary discoveries.
I'm already thinking about firing up the grill this weekend
Yeah.
and trying out this recipe.
You gotta let me know how it goes.
Oh, I definitely will.
I can practically smell that smoky venison aroma.
Me too.
Nah.
And that melty cheddar cheese.
Ugh, so good.
And all the fresh toppings.
It's a feast for the senses.
Absolutely. And the best part is,
What's that?
it's not just delicious.
Right.
It's also a more sustainable and healthy option.
It's a win-win-win.
Exactly. Now, we want to hear from you.
Yes. Tell us.
Have you ever tried venison before?
What did you think?
Are you interested in trying this deer burger recipe?
Head over to our social media pages.
And let us know your thoughts.
We love connecting with fellow food enthusiasts.
And hearing about your culinary adventures.
And if you're looking for more delicious recipes,
Cooking inspiration.
be sure to visit www.deckerscat4canfry.com.
They have a ton of great stuff over there.
All sorts of culinary delights.
Before we sign off today,
Okay.
we want to leave you with this.
What's that?
Think about how exploring new ingredients like venison
Hmm.
can open up a whole new world of flavor and understanding.
I like that.
Food has this amazing ability to connect us to different cultures and traditions.
It really does.
It's a journey of culinary discovery.
That can enrich our lives in so many ways.
So be adventurous,
Get creative in the kitchen.
and don't be afraid to try something new.
That's what it's all about.
Until next time, happy cooking.